Good morning. Welcome to the House Government Operations and Military Affairs Committee. This is Thursday, January 16th, and our esteemed Vice Chair and Clerk are in another hearing. So I'm Representative Lisa Hango, and I'll be running this meeting until their return. We're going to hear from the State Treasurer's Office this morning. And welcome to Ashlyn Doyon, who's the Director of Policy in the Office of the State Treasurer.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Ashlyn Doyon for the record. I'm the Director of Policy in the State Treasurer's Office, and I have been with the office for going on 7 years now. Every time I say that, it startles me a little bit, but here we are. The chair asked me this morning to give you a brief overview of the work of the Treasurer's Office. I know that there are a lot of returning members to this committee, so you are probably well versed in what we do, but there are also some new faces that I haven't had the opportunity to interact with yet. And so I hope that I sort of struck a balance between being comprehensive and also brief with this presentation. Last night, and also in your committee materials, the treasurer submitted our office's annual report that details activities from calendar year 2024. And so if you are curious to learn more about any of the topics that we cover today, you can start with that annual report. You may find the answers that you need. Of course, I'm always happy to entertain questions or help dig into other topics of interest as well. So I'll start with sort of just a brief overview of the organization of the Treasurer's Office. We have three main branches. We have the Treasury Operations Division, which is what I think folks generally think of when they think of the Treasurer's responsibilities for the state. So in Treasury Operations, we deal with debt management, bonding. We operate as the state's central bank. We reconcile and print checks and things of that nature. In the Treasurer's Office, we also manage the three large public retirement systems for the state teachers and municipal employees. All of that work is housed within our Retirement Operations Division. And then our Unclaimed Property Division, you've probably seen in the news media recently that we've done a lot of work in trying to return unclaimed property to Vermonters this year. But our Unclaimed Property Division has 4 staff currently, and they manage all of that work, receiving unclaimed property and the return and claims process. We also have a newly established division of economic empowerment within the Treasurer's Office. And that department is led by Becky Wasserman, who many of you know. She used to be on legislative council. And that department houses our Vermont Saves public retirement program for businesses, as well as the Baby Bonds Trust Pilot Program. And sort of it will be expanded with other kind of financial literacy and economic empowerment initiatives as they come up for our office. The administrative team in the Treasurer's Office is comprised of myself, Treasurer Pichek, of course, Deputy Treasurer Gavin Boyles, our General Counsel, and communications officer. So in Treasury Operations, I sort of covered all of this. Some things that I'll just pull out that you'll probably hear about most again are the debt authorization levels. So that is handled by our staff as well as the Capital Debt Affordability Advisory Committee. And this year, the allotment for the capital bill is $100 million for the biennium or $50 million per year. We can talk more about that process on the next slide. We went out to bond in June of this year, and our high ratings were affirmed. We have sort of the second highest ratings possible, and we're the highest rated state in New England. So that's a success. We used to be a AAA rated state in Vermont, and we did lose that about 5 years ago. Largely due to some of our demographics challenges, as well as our other kind of financial liabilities that are on the books. And we're continuously working to regain that AAA rated status. Some sort of quick facts about this division that I think you might find interesting. I already talked about the state's bond ratings and the CDAC recommendation, but we also have right now, in the past couple of years, we've seen a huge expansion in the amount of short-term cash holdings that the state has as a result of inflation, higher interest rates, and also federal funds that have come into the state. And so we've been managing on average over $2 billion on any given day of short-term cash holdings. When I started in the treasurer's office about 7 years ago, that average was closer to $300 million. So this is a sort of significant change of late. That also amounts to over $8 billion that go in and out of our coffers over the course of the year. And that number is probably familiar to you because it's about the size of your budget. We have been working hard to invest that money that we're holding in short-term cash in liquid, safe vehicles, but also ones that are giving us a rate of return. And this year, in fiscal year 24, we generated $109 million of interest income. That interest income amount it surprises me every year because back when we only had $300 million of cash, that sort of extra interest income earning on just the ins and outs of what we need in order to pay our bills was just not existent in that way. And so that's just a really exciting number. The Treasury Operations Division also manages the trust investment accounts and the OPEBs. The trust investment accounts, the tobacco trust funds will come to mind, some special funds for fish and wildlife, and also the higher education trust fund. The OPEBs, and I misspelled, that should be OPEB, are the other post-employment benefits that are associated with the retirement programs. That's mostly healthcare costs for retirees. And as part of the pension reforms a couple of years ago, we started to pre-fund those accounts. And so now we are investing close to $300 million for OPEB benefits for the state and teachers retirement systems. And we are generating interest income from those investments to help pay for those benefits. Whereas before we were just it was a pay-go process. We were paying the bill every year. We weren't able to benefit from interest earned. So that's also exciting. I mentioned our Retirement Operations Division. They manage the state, teacher, and municipal employee retirement systems. We also manage supplemental retirement programs. So folks that are in the DC plans, if you're in the state, we also have for the 457 accounts, which are additional retirement accounts that state employees can elect to invest in. We serve approximately 50,000 active members and retirees with a staff of only 18. That's after we added 3 new positions in retirement, not last year, but the year before, I believe. And we are still one of the most lean retirement divisions nationwide with respect to number of members served per employee. But we are really proud of sort of our track record of customer service, positive feedback that we received back for that division. Mention again the pension reforms from Act 114 of 2022 and the work of the pension task force that was done the year prior to those reforms. We are really beginning to see the benefits of all of those reforms that were made and the hard work that was done, much of which happened in this committee. We expect that those changes will save taxpayers $5.8 billion over time. And both VSERS and VSERS this year have the highest funding ratios that they've had in decades and are on track to be 100% funded by 2038. And that's not that far away at this point. So it's, it's wonderful. A healthy plan is considered to be, high 80s and 90% funded. And we're going to get there even sooner than 2038. And so we've really kind of turned this big cruise ship around. And it's something that as a state, we can be really proud of. There's more work to be done, right? The ADEC payments every year are a large part of the state budget, and the legislature, the governor, has committed to funding not only the ADECs for the retirement systems and OPEBs, but also an additional amount on top of that for the next several years. And it's really important to continue putting those dollars in that place in order to reap the benefits of this trend going forward. There were 2 changes last year made to the retirement system. H585 was a bill that came through this committee that expanded Group G benefits to certain sheriffs and sheriff's deputies in Vermont so that they could have a 20-year retirement at a higher contribution rate. That's been really positive. The sheriffs who are eligible, those who have chosen to get into Group G, that's been implemented at this point. They have had the opportunity to make their elections. Additionally, with the Beamer system, which we don't talk about as much, the municipal system, because there's no state appropriation, municipal employees and municipalities fund that plan. But we do have to pay attention to the funding levels, and Beamers is a younger program. It's been historically healthier than the other 2, but the incremental contribution rates were set to sunset for FY26. And in last year's budget bill, you put in place a plan to continue those incremental changes from FY27 to FY2030 to ensure that the Beamer's plan also stays healthy. So much work has been done on pensions over the past several years. I think that the motto that we are going with this year is just continue to pay the ADEC and stay the course, which is good news for this committee because I think that those changes took up a lot of time and required sort of a lot of deep dives. So thank you for your past work and hopefully less of a heavy lift in this area this year. These are just some fun charts that show the projected funding ratios over time that I think you might enjoy seeing. So you can see sort of where we hit rock bottom and how we've had this steady upward trend that is just projected to continue in a really exciting way through 2038. These are the OPEB funding percentages. So you can see where we started to pre-fund, where we crossed over 0, and now we are starting to amass assets under those plans and are generating interest income. This past year, FY24, there was $32 million of interest income generated for the OPEBs across both teachers and state. I mentioned unclaimed property. I always want to plug what unclaimed property is. And so this page is just sort of a definition of unclaimed property. We all can have unclaimed property. And so, it's things like forgotten bank accounts, uncashed paychecks, security deposits, forgotten balances in mutual funds, things like that. Sometimes contents of safe deposit boxes, you just never know. And so I encourage all of the members of this committee to search for unclaimed property. And as you're talking to your constituents, this is always something that's sort of fun to talk about. Did you know you might have unclaimed property? You can search on the treasurer's website. I had unclaimed property once. It was from my old college apartment. The internet service was prorated for a month. when I canceled it, when I lost my lease, and I got like $18 back, and it was wonderful. My husband had unclaimed property, like residual meal dollars in his law school bucks account that got issued into the state. So you just never know. It might be fun to search and find. Our unclaimed property division has been very busy. We paid over 19,000 claims in FY '24, almost $6 million. And this year, for the first half of FY '25, we have paid over 17,000 claims. So we are on track to sort of blow this record amount of claims out of the water. This year, we took in over $18 million in new unclaimed properties that were issued into the states, and our total unclaimed property that we're holding right now is over $130 million that belongs to Vermonters, Vermont businesses, Vermont nonprofits. And so we have embarked on several kind of new proactive campaigns in order to return this money. We worked with the Secretary of State's office in their corporations division to match the names of nonprofits with ones that they had registered and found current addresses. And we returned $150,000 last February to Vermont nonprofits. Just before the holidays, we did the money back pilot program where we worked with the tax department and used data that they are able to share with us to match current addresses and names to folks that we had in our database with property. And we sent letters and followed by checks with no claims process required, because we were able to do that data match for over $1 million back to Vermonters just before the holidays. You will see in our budget request this year that we are requesting 2 new positions for the unclaimed property division in order to be able to continue these sort of new proactive approaches to returning money. The great thing about these positions is that they are not funded with general fund dollars. They're all 100% funded through the unclaimed property special fund. And so they don't really impact other programs in state government. I also just want to mention that we are able to print lists of unclaimed properties in your districts for town meeting day. We can do that upon request. And so if you would like a list of unclaimed property for your district, please reach out to me and we'll send over a manila envelope with your list, and you can bring that and might bring them to folks on town meeting day and share with them that they have some money with the state, and that's always really nice.
We're gonna need as much good news as we can get.
Quick question, can you do that electronically rather than a paper packet?
Okay,
That would be good to know.
It's a little bit tricky because we have an online search database, but then our back office functions are not always exportable in the same way. But if we're able to, we can make that happen.
The reason I ask that is that many of us don't have a real town meeting anymore. So I don't know if that's something that the paper packet could be left at the town clerk office and.
Yeah, absolutely. We could also just provide you with the list, and as you're out in events at your community, you can bring it around and share it with folks too. So just let me know if you would like to see in what form we can get it to you.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I have a constituent that I've been, as a town clerk, I've been constantly looking on the unclaimed property for our town. And I helped her fill out the paperwork. It was money that was given to her by her grandfather when she was 4 years old and she lived in another town. And the department is asking for proof that she lived there. Her parents rented, her parents are now divorced. The there's no way to contact them because of the situation, they're mentally in hospitals. So she doesn't know what to do. And she came back to my office last week. Like, we notarized everything. It's her, but she doesn't know what to do because it was a rental property and she was poor and she's now 40.
Was it a town in Vermont?
Yes.
One thought could be if she was born in that town.
She wasn't.
She was not. Okay. One thought I was going to say was we could look at vital records If you wanted to send that person's name and contact information to me, I can reach out to our own property director and
Perfect.
take a look at this.
As it is, it's like $1,000.
Yeah, some of these claims are, huge, and sometimes there are other ways that we can go about finding things. We have an ancestry.com subscription, so we can look up records that way. We can be kind of innovative about finding things. This is a space where there's an increasing amount of fraud. And so we do take steps to make sure that we are sending checks to the right people.
Right.
And so sometimes in those cases where there are those additional verification steps, it is frustrating, but I hope that we can get there for that constituent, and if you just want to flag it for me.
I will do that. Thank
So
you.
just for clarity and for people who might be listening, any government official that comes in, state government official that comes in and sits down with us, your email address is your first name dot last name at vermont.gov. Is that correct?
That's correct, and I've included my contact information as well as my phone number, which I might regret at the end of this slide.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
I had a friend that had the same sort of experience. But a small amount, and it was awarded to he and his two brothers, and eventually they all died, so I don't know what happened to the money, but none of them got it. Would the department, or the treasurer's office be objecting to establishing an amount? That, it was a little less a roadblock.
We do have a fast claims process for smaller amounts of money.
What's the threshold?
I believe it's $250, but don't quote me on that. In that case, sometimes when there are siblings or there's a matter of an estate, it can be a little bit tricky because you have to go back to the estate to make sure that the estate directed there to be an equitable division of the assets among all parties. And then you often have to get all of the siblings to sign off. And so we do our best to customer service and handhold through those types of situations. Oftentimes we're successful, sometimes we're not successful in time.
It was a small amount, I don't remember how much, but first one brother died, a couple of years later, another one died, and then the third one. I'm the only one left and still good.
If you wanted to send information about that case to me as well, I'd be happy to look into it.
Oh, he's been dead for 10 years.
If there are any descendants that are eligible to claim, we might be able to work on it.
Thank you. So I guess if nobody has any additional questions about unclaimed property, if you think of something, email Ashlyn and we can go on to what else your department is doing.
Great. So I talked about the newly established financial literacy and economic empowerment division. There are a couple of programs in our office that fit under this financial literacy umbrella. You may have seen recently that we launched our Vermont Saves program. Finally, I know I'm smiling at your chair because Representative Farang has been working with the treasurer's office on a derivative of this public retirement initiative for over a decade at this point.
At least two treasurers.
Yes, and we were finally able to launch this program. This functions as an auto IRA program for businesses do not currently offer a retirement plan. There's no cost to businesses. It's very thoughtfully designed where employees are auto-enrolled or businesses are auto-enrolled. Employees have a choice of whether or not to participate in the plan. Employees have a choice about how much they would like to set aside. This plan is already accruing assets. The average contribution rate across all participants is up over 4%, which is fabulous. I know it's actually incredible. So we're really excited. We submitted a full report on the progress and the development of this launch under separate cover that you can find on their legislative website. Similarly, the baby bonds pilot program is under development. Last year, you'll probably remember baby bonds was an initiative that Treasurer Pieciak was really pushing. These would be accounts that would be seeded at birth for Vermont children born on Medicaid that the treasurer's office would then invest over time, that they would be eligible to claim in early adulthood and use for wealth building activities such as secondary education, buying a house, saving for retirement, or starting a business. We did not receive the authorization to fund this program last year, and so we're in the process of developing a pilot program funded with philanthropic dollars that we can then use to sort of generate the data and track record that can justify full funding of this program. In the spring, our office also helped to facilitate a partnership with M&T Bank, which is the state's bank of record, and the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. This partnership was kind of a train the trainer model where staff from the bank worked with service providers at the network to educate them on financial literacy topics and practices that are specific to victims of domestic and sexual violence. There was also a match component, a match savings component of this program where participants in the sort of educational course were able to receive sort of a small token to start saving. And this program was funded through M&T's charitable foundation. We were really excited about that partnership. And finally, I've been sort of administering the Vermont ABLE program since I joined the treasurer's office. And Vermont ABLE is Vermont's version of a tax advantage investment vehicle for individuals to experience a disability. It allows individuals to save without the risk of losing their benefits. When I started in the office, we had less than 100 ABLE accounts. We now have close to 1,500 and over $12 million in assets under management in this program. And that's just very exciting because I think that there was a practice that the disability communicated to us before this program existed, where folks would get to sort of the end of the month and they would spend down money in their accounts on things that they might not necessarily need in order to not be in jeopardy of losing their benefits. And now, you know, people are actually able to have a financial plan. They're able to save up for things that they might need that are over and above the $2,000 asset limit. And I think that we all sort of can understand that with inflation and the amount that rent costs, and if you're saving for an apartment, the amount that, you know, your last month in security deposit cost is probably going to be well over $2,000. And so just the ability to have a little bit of extra cash on hand, the average account balance in these accounts is still quite nominal. It's right around the $10,000 mark. And so we're not seeing people use these accounts to amass significant wealth, but we are seeing them as a tool for folks to have greater financial independence. So that's really exciting. You'll also will hear and probably have heard Treasurer Pieciak talk about the expansion of the local investment program at the Treasurer's office, which is a program where we have the authorization to invest 10% of our state's average daily cash balance in local investments. Of late, the priorities for these investments have been housing, climate goals, and social equity. And just last year, we actually created an additional 2.5% credit facility for climate infrastructure and resilience projects with legislative approval, of course. This program allowed us to be really nimble this year. One thing I want to highlight is that we used funds in this program of the partnership with the bond bank to provide short-term bridge loans to municipalities that had flood damage that are awaiting FEMA reimbursements so that they could pay for the things that they need while they wait for the federal government to come through and backfill those funds. And a full report detailing all of the activities of this credit facility is available in the link on your slide.
Rep. Hooper?
What was the second? You said housing.
Climate goals.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And that's all for now. I'm happy to take questions. This is my contact information. You can be in touch with me anytime on any topic. Happy to be a resource.
Rep. Hooper?
Thank you. That question. Does all the money that comes in and out of the treasurer's office that is invested fall under the purview of VPIC? Or is some of it standalone?
No. So our short-term cash does not fall under the purview of VPIC. Neither do OPEB funds at this point. Only the pension trust funds fall under VPIC. So for the, and the supplemental retirement funds.
OPEB is not.
OPEB is being invested by the treasurer's office currently. When we started pre-funding the OPEB, we did an analysis. And that study was submitted last year about whether or not it made sense to ask VPIC to do this work. We do leverage the similar vendors for contracts, et cetera, to invest those funds, but currently it's under the treasurer's office.
But Beth had some kind of a deal where that was.
Yeah, I can send you the study that we submitted last year that we did in conjunction with VPIC relative to these facts, if it's helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just gonna text myself to make it a little bit.
If there are no other questions, I have one final question, and it's pretty general. Does the treasurer's office work with students in schools at all for financial literacy purposes?
That's a great question. We used to have a number of programs that were geared toward like elementary age students and also high school students. We used to have a Treasury Cup that we hosted here in the State House every year. It's kind of like a trivia competition for high school students, and they came in with teams, and there were BSAC scholarships to be won. It was very exciting. We also had a Reading is an Investment program where we partnered with librarians in elementary schools across the state to read financial literacy themed books. All of those things were, oh, and at one time I also mentioned we had a partnership with Vermont After School where we did after school programming as well. We don't currently have financial literacy programming for school-age children. I think what we found was that through those programs, we kept reaching kind of the same cohort of kids. The same, I think the demographic of children that were participating with really lengthy reading logs and winning the Reading as an Investment prizes, and the demographic of children that were coming to the Treasury Cup competition and winning, we found that they already likely possessed this financial literacy education, and that these were just venues where they could show that, and that we weren't necessarily reaching kids who were not being given those financial literacy lessons at home. And so when we decided to shift efforts to the Vermont Saves program and the Baby Bonds Trust pilot program, both of those programs have a financial literacy component, and we've really tried to establish them with as few new resources as possible. And so I think the hope is that by providing these financial literacy tools to parents, that there will be kind of a trickle down effect into their families. We have worked to highlight financial literacy programming in high schools. Treasurer Pichek has visited Courtney Paquette's classroom in Winooski, where she does phenomenal financial literacy educational curriculum. twice. And I think that there have been a couple of bills in the State House that have sought to kind of mandate financial literacy here be taught in schools that we've been very interested in. Of course, there are nuances with, you know, how much curriculum we can continue to demand teachers to produce and teach. But we're very interested in that topic overall. I think it's just been a matter recently of having a finite number of resources and making decisions about where we think we can have the biggest impact.
I appreciate all of that. I would really encourage the treasurer's office to reach out to all of the high schools in Vermont because many of them do not have financial literacy programs, and this might be a way to reach students. I know in my home district, Vermont After School is huge. Like 90% of students attend an after-school program, and we also have one of the lowest income levels in the state, and those students may not be getting those that information at home. So I feel like that must have been a great partnership with Vermont After School, and I'm sorry to see that go away. So if there's any way that your office, if there's any way we can help your office to expand back out into those two areas, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for the comment. We'll think about that a little more. In the past, these programs have been funded by sort of one-time charitable contributions from different financial institutions in the state. We're always thinking about innovative things that they might be interested in funding. If I could have just 2 more minutes.
Certainly.
The committee's time, I just want to preview, we did a deep dive this year on sort of some of the statutes that pertain to the treasurer's office. And we are hoping to do kind of an omnibus package that cleans up some things that I don't think will be controversial. We are looking to, for example, the currently town treasurers are all required to report to the treasurer's office when there's a change in the town treasurer. We don't think that that is necessary anymore because we can so readily contact them digitally, different than when we didn't have computers. There's also a scarecrow law on the books that makes children in some instances responsible for their parents' debt. There are some ways in which animal license and spay neuter fees are sent to the state that are slightly onerous that we're kind of hoping to tweak. So we have and there are a couple of word changes in the Vermont Save statute and the baby bond statute that after further review, we'd kind of like to tweak. None of these are big moving parts, but I hope that eventually they will make it to your committee for your review. So this is just sort of heads up and we can go through language line by line perhaps at that time, but I think just sort of the heads up that this is hopefully coming is enough for now. I hope it won't require too much space.
Thank you for offering that. It would be great to get a memo from your office bullet pointing those. And also, I don't know what kind of vehicle you would like it to move in, but we do have a drafting deadline of January 31st.
It's understood. Yes, we have all of the language drafted. And we will, as you're probably aware, January 15th is a legislative report deadline.
Yes.
And so now that we can breathe, we will be focusing on this.
For anybody listening, there were a lot of reports delivered late yesterday.
Yes, including our annual report, which I mentioned at the beginning you have in your committee materials, and it's a great read. I wrote it last night. So
Thank you.
let me know if you have any questions.
Any additional questions for Ms. Doyon? Okay, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
It's a great overview of what your office does. Mr. Chair, you have returned. Is there anything else on our docket for now, or are we taking a break? 10:30.
Door number 2, let's take a break till 10:30. Stretch your legs. We got some liquor lottery coming in. That's gonna be high level. And then a little bit of conversation in and around what's been doing for the last year, et cetera.
I have $200 of unclaimed property because of.
I'm gonna let you figure out how to reappropriate that money for yourself there, remember? All right, you can
Thank you.
take